you've been sleeping at. But I've said numerous times that I think he cares more about the money than he cares about actually winning. I think a lot of people think that too. Senator Pacquiao, yes. He is a senator. Pacquiao is very busy in his native country, and you got to give props for that too. You definitely got to give props for him being active. So boxing is not the top. I don't think that's the top of his list, at this point in his life. Just like the Steelers, the Cowboys window is closing real fast. Yeah. Definitely is. I don't know. We're not even going to talk about the Jason Witten thing. But I don't know how much longer they really have. But they have a lot of people they got to sign. DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously, this year. Next year, you got to think about Dak. The year after that, Zeke. You're going to probably want to sign Zeke before that. So they have a lot on their plates. Now, they do have cap space. This will be a first in a while that they've actually had legitimate cap space. They've been in cap hell for so long. They now have legitimate cap space that they could actually truly make some things happen. All right, so we got our first guest up on the line. My man Tom of Off the Rails with Tom and Mark. How's it going tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Appreciate you for reaching out and coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Stoked to be here. I didn't realize you guys were from Texas.
Yeah, right here in Dallas. So, Cowboys Nation. We got a lot to be excited about and a lot to be disappointed about. That's kind of what our lives.
Last time I bet Texas, Kevin Durant knocked me out of the second round of my bracket. So
yeah.
I never forget.
Yep. And like I said, we have Tom of the Off the Rails with Tom and Mark. It's a podcast in Milwaukee's largest independent podcast. Podcasted at Summerfest, got some work in films, also judging the Twisted Dream Films Festival. So very active in the area, and wanted you to just kind of give you the floor to talk about the podcast and what it's about and what some of the listeners can expect when they tune in.
We are basically kind of a Milwaukee area podcast, but we have a national appeal to it. We do current events, always have dumb trivia on. We do a lot of entertainers. We have one of our co-hosts is a national headline comedian, Nate Ford, of the Hobbit Trail Misguided Comedy Tour. But we started out in a bedroom with two not matching microphones and a laptop, and with everybody putting podcasts out these days, you got to be kind of good to filter up through the stuff. So now, after about a year and a half, we got sponsors. We're in our own studio at the North Shore Academy of the Arts, and we got a big setup, giant room, cameras, and just really took off. So I think what we're doing is pretty cool. It's hard to get into podcasting now, anybody who wants to do it, because every D-list celebrity and their brother have their own podcast, so it's hard to compete with them.
That's true. Oprah.
Yeah.
You're right. Everybody's brother, sister, cousin, the famous person hosts the podcast, and then the cousin or the brother is the co-host. But
look at the number one reality TV show is Wahlburgers. It's basically Mark Wahlberg's brother makes hamburgers, and that's the number one reality TV show. Mark Wahlberg's brother makes hamburgers. How am I supposed to compete with that?
Right, exactly. And then, they come on there together. They're both actors. You may have New Kids from the Block come on there or something. It's all about a name and getting that name more publicity than what they kind of already have is what it's starting to turn into. But
well, it turned into podcasting was built for people who weren't celebrities that actually got to talk and have a voice and built the audience. And then they saw that, wow, people are starting to make real money at this. Maybe I'll just throw out a podcast and see what happens.
Right.
And you'll get people that their podcast has been over with for a year and they're still getting 20,000 downloads a week just because of their name and 1 million Twitter followers. It's really hard. So you got to work if you're going to be podcasting.
Right. That's true. And I always tell everybody the podcasting door is still wide open. You can talk about anything. I encourage people just whatever's on your mind and heart to talk about. There's some people out there, there's someone out there that would love to hear what you have to say or is trying to find something that's a topic that you may be interested in. And I think that's the greatness of podcasting, that it still does exist, but it is starting to get kind of clouded out with other people and other famous people kind of taking over the spotlight a little bit.
Well, it's the Wild West right now. There's no rules, there's no governing body, and no company is out to help you. iTunes or Facebook or anybody, they don't care about your podcast. So you can't really ask them for help. And like you said, there's always something. We do another podcast called Movies with Mark. That's how we got hooked into the Twisted Dreams Film Festival. And you just put out, like, one of our biggest ones is, okay, Bird Box is really popular. Let's do a quick review on that. Boom, you get, 10,000 listens on Bird Box only because you struck at the right time. If you stay up on pop culture, I think that's a way to get an edge. We're kind of reaching a broader, we don't have more of a niche where, like, if you're a solid, say, Dungeons and Dragons gamer and you're the only guy with the Dungeons and Dragons podcast, you're going to get 10,000 followers. But I think we're reaching to a wider audience, what might not be the best move, but that's kind of what we want to do. We like watching movies, and we only review movies that are free. So, well, technically free. If you don't have Netflix, I don't know what you're doing. But
yeah, what are you doing with your life? Because you can, as of now, you can still bootleg off of somebody else's Netflix. Okay, you didn't really hear me say that, but you did hear me say that.
Yeah, no, Netflix don't care. They're doing it all right. They're crushing everybody. So just get your Netflix. We'll get you some free movies to review, and it's a good time. So yeah. And
talk about. Have you seen the movie? It's a documentary. Abducted in Plain Sight. Have you seen that one yet?
I have not seen that one.
So
what is that about?
It's on Netflix. Every one of my coworkers are talking about it. It's almost like if you don't see this, you're left out of the water cooler conversation, basically. But it's about a family. They have a family friend, and the family friend has an attraction to these people's daughter. The daughter's, I think at the point, she was 8 or 9. He ends up abducting her. He takes her away for like a weekend. He's like sleeping in the bed with the girl, and the parents are just like, yeah, it's just a family friend. We really trust this guy. It is almost, it's disgusting, but it's like, how dumb are these parents that you just let your kid be around anybody? Wow. Now, it is back in the 70s. That's really no excuse. But that is homework for everybody out there listening. If you have not seen that, Abducted in Plain Sight, it is it's mind-boggling. Because I'm a parent. I don't know if you're a parent, but you...
No.
Okay, if you're a parent, you're going to protect your child's life with your life. You're going to do whatever it takes, which you don't want your child to be put in any type of situation. And it's almost like they just gave this girl up to this family friend that planted all this crazy stuff in her head. It's crazy.
Back in the 70s, though, there was such like a huge church community, and, that was the Facebook of the day. So if you actually said something like, everybody's going to know that this guy's doing something with my daughter, everyone's going to be talking about us. How about we just don't say anything so we're not the talk of the town? Let's shove it under the rug. They used to do that all the time with, little girls just went off to, actually in my family, I had a grandma who just disappeared for a school year. She was, quote, sick, but she went up to the farm and had a baby that the grandma raised. And then she came back and finished her school because she was, in the 40s, got pregnant at 16.
Wow.
Nobody talked about it. She just went away. Oh, she's up north being sick. No, wow. And then great-grandma raised the baby. But it was like, okay, that's just the way that mentality back then was just sweep everything under the rug. We don't want to be the talk of the town. We don't want to be, in Wisconsin here, you're either the talk of the bar or the church.
Yeah, so. And growing up in, I would definitely say in an African-American household or family, a lot of situations you did not talk about. And I want to give a quick shout out. We do shout outs here in the show. We have listeners that are joining in on the chat room. Jelani of the Wait a Minute Show, thank you for tuning in. Anybody also, if you're cool with this, anybody that has any questions for Tom, you can put those in the chat room as well. We have a very interactive show, so a lot of people tune in and chime in. But you didn't talk about, like, mental health issues was really not a topic you talked about. You would just say, we'll just deal with it, or don't talk about it and you'll be fine. But it is an issue. And now as we see people growing up, you see people through different generations, you can see that mental health is definitely an issue, and you have to address it. You can't just think that everything will just be fine one day, because then people grow up to be either mentally ill or serial killers or something.
Well, both sides of the spectrum on mental health. I actually have a degree in neuropsychology. A lot of people say, like, there's a boom in autism, when there's really not a boom. It's just everything is considered autism and people are actually getting help, when back in the day, like you were talking, I just had a slow uncle that nobody really talked about. They just didn't address it in that form of mental health too, not just psychologically, but biologically mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bussa Bus in the chat room. Thank you for tuning in. By the way, most people don't use their real names, so if you hear anything like, wow, is that guy's real name? It's more than likely it's not his real name. We nicknames, a lot of nicknames in here. I wanted to ask you, how long have you guys been doing the podcast, and what's some of the goals that you guys achieved, or some of the great things that you guys have been able to be a part of?
Well, it was originally my friend Alex and I, and we bankrolled like 5 episodes and released them. So as soon as we released them, the government basically at his job showed up and said, "Are you on this podcast? Didn't you know you signed this thing? You can't be doing this stuff." And He's like, "Okay, sorry, I got to go." So if you're going to start a podcast, check with your job. You may have signed something saying you can't do that. So I was left high and dry, but my buddy Mark, he took the reins, and we did it at his house for a while. And then, as it grew and we got sponsors, we got a studio. Summerfest is the largest music festival in the world, and we got to play the Marcus stage before Cheap Trick went off. So that was really cool.
Wow.
So it's like we started off in an extra bedroom, and all of a sudden, you're getting treated like a celebrity at Summerfest. Like, they gave us a person. Like, this little girl had to carry all of our equipment, and we, here is the secret internet that you connect to. You don't connect to the unwashed commoner internet. This is for like whoa, okay.
The special people, the higher ups here.
Yeah, you use this internet and you use this. So it's like, okay, we're right on the Milwaukee skyline of Lake Michigan, podcasting, interviewing people from Summerfest, and we're going to be doing that again. Just having people be like, "Hey, you want to be an extra in this movie because I know you now and you're my buddy?" I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be in a movie. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What do I do? You sit at a bar and pretend to drink. Okay. But I'm in a movie, so we're okay.
Yeah,
just little cool things.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. Being a sports podcast, I've been able to go to different events, different sporting events, which to me has been kind of in awe. You see these people that you watch on TV for so long, and then the minute you're